kidnapped, blocking the scene, reviewing old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insight so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands tall. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with a charm, Matt with that wit. Together they make the VHS Club legit.
Welcome back to the VHS Club. Paul already has me laughing that Val saw this movie last century. Let's be nice in the chat. Let's be nice to Val in the chat. I am so excited for tonight's episode. We are talking Ghostbusters, which I am humiliated to say we have not covered yet, but also excited to say we haven't covered yet because I've brought another Katie into the club. So welcome, Katie.
I'm here.
Katie is here to join me and talk all things Ghostbusters. Nat is off tonight, so you will see her hopefully next time. But it's okay because we have two Katies, and two Katies are better than one. And this Katie is all ready to talk about Ghostbusters. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Ghostbusters is one of my favorite things to talk about.
And
I probably talk about it far too much.
Katie is totally outfitted. She's got the Ghostbusters t-shirt. She's got the Ghostbusters mug. She's got we are prepped to discuss all things Ghostbusters. We're going to talk about the original Ghostbusters tonight, but we will also talk a little bit about this is a franchise certainly. So there were a few other movies. There have been movies recently. There was the real Ghostbusters TV show. There's lots of Ghostbusters things that we can get off to. And I see the club is ready because those who are hanging out with us in the live chat, they are already saying, Ghostbusters, no one is afraid of any ghosts. Everyone is ready for an evening. Well, Katie, first question right off the bat before we dive into everything about this movie. What about this movie? So when I first met you, you were like, we were talking about podcasts and about live shows and everything. We were at an event together, and you were like, you found out that I had this show, and you were like, I love Ghostbusters. I was like, that's awesome.
You didn't even mention it. I was like, if you do Ghostbusters, I want to do it.
Katie was there.
I'm
She
there.
was like, when you do this, I am there. So what is it about that? Because I have struggled with the idea of like a favorite movie. We were talking right before we jumped on. Like, I have like a top 10. I'm even like slowly building my top 10. I don't even think I can answer that question right now. So this clearly is your fave. So what is it about this that makes it your favorite?
So it kind of started in last century. No, my dad had a movie theater when I was growing up, and I was born before Ghostbusters came out. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, me too. Katie's are from an era. We're from an era.
Yeah. And it's funny because I always say it's the first movie I remember seeing, and my dad's theater, and so I don't even know if that's completely true.
But it's what you remember.
But
it's
to me,
you remember seeing, so that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that I'm so sarcastic because Ghostbusters was my first movie, and I loved Peter Venkman.
Yeah.
So I just took after him my whole life. And but yeah, it really could went back to that and just being in my dad's theater. And I don't know, it was
That is awesome. I'm very jealous. I miss the days of certainly miss the days of video rental. I absolutely miss the days of being in the theater. I mean, we still go here and there to see the movies, but
yes.
my kids are definitely growing up in a world where that's like an uncommon weird thing to do, and I
Right.
lived at the theater. It sounds like you also lived at the theater. So
Well,
it's
see, I had to clean the theater too, though. So
that's
that
exciting.
was, yeah, a bit. But he also did have a video store. Like, so when VHS came out, he opened a video store in like the lobby of the theaters
That's
because
so
small
cool.
town, single screen, you know, all those things. So, I mean, I would go up in the summers and have to clean the theater, and I couldn't get home because I didn't live close. And so I'd watch movies all day.
I love it. You're in the right place. And Paul is already off to sharing some facts about this movie. And
Oh,
one of my favorites. So you were talking earlier about Venkman and about his incredible lines
yes.
throughout this. A lot of this movie is
Yes.
ad-libbed, which is actually
A
like
lot.
remarkable on so many
Yes.
levels because the dialogue, as you were saying, is so witty and fun and
It's
sarcastic and like from everyone. So like it's really tongue in cheek, and you almost like you have to watch you have to watch this movie. B, you have to watch this movie a number of times because there are so many things that you'll miss in the conversation that are just
I
so funny.
I just watched it yesterday, and there was something that I heard right at the beginning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever paid attention to this hilarious
Yeah.
line about the sponges. And Ray Stantz is talking about the sponge. And, you know, Bateman's like, they moved a foot and a half, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I never really caught that joke. And I was reading some of, you know, kind of reading up on some of the facts too, and, you know, going off the ad libs. They wrote the script. I mean, I know Dan Aykroyd had kind of a script already made that was quite different than what we see today, but
Yeah.
um, they wrote the script in a really, really short time, like 3 weeks. And so it's not surprising that they ad libbed because I'm sure it was necessary as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
I'm
can. That's what they do.
and they can. If you want even more information about just the oddity that is Dan Aykroyd, we did. I can't remember what episode number it was, but a, a few months back we did an entire review on the movie Nothing But Trouble, which is what happens when
Okay.
you let Dan Aykroyd fully make a movie with as much money as you want to give him, right? Like they just gave him
Right.
like full control over this film, and I. What's funny about it is that movie, love it or hate it, most people hate it, was wild. It was a wild movie.
It's
And
a wild ride.
Ghostbusters like had the potential in some ways to be that, and I think in many ways became the blockbuster that it is today because of the entire team. So he was reined back by his crew of people, you know, many of
And the
whom
budget.
and the budget, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I think they said his initial script would have been like a $300 million movie
Yes.
in the early 80s.
In
So,
80s. Yeah.
yeah,
Like that's incredible.
which would have just been, yeah, absolutely incredible. But we should back up. We should back up for a second.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone knows what this movie is about, but but in case you don't, I was laughing out
Yes.
loud. I should have held it near me to read the exact quote, but I guess when they were pitching this movie, they they said that they were ghost hunting janitors. That was the like one
Yes.
line
Yes.
they said. So this movie is about ghost hunting janitors. And I love that they actually don't really do a whole lot to explain it. Like they're just like they set it up a little bit in the first like few, you know, 15 or 20 minutes of the movie, but really it just seems to be like, okay, that it's a little weird and a little unassuming, but people generally are like, yeah, there are some ghosts in New York City and we need some help, which I
No big
love.
deal.
Yeah, it's no big deal. There's just a few
Yeah.
ghosts here and there,
Yeah.
and they're at the library, and they're at, like, they're at, you know, all these, they're at hotels, they're at all these different
Yeah.
locations,
Mhm.
which I kind of think is really nice. And I don't think that modern day movies do this as much anymore, where there doesn't like, it can be a little bit crazy. It can be a little bit silly. You don't really need a long explanation. You're just sort of dropped into this world and you're
Yes.
expected to be like, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
They're scientists-ish.
Yeah.
They're professors. It's fine.
Well, they mention that they're scientists many times.
Yeah.
And so we know they're scientists.
We know, so it's fine. It's scientists
It's
are doing
fine.
sciencey things and it's all good. It involves ghosts and that's okay. Yeah, it's so I love that that was the one liner. We're always joking on the show about like, can you give the movie plot in one line? And they apparently were out pitching just, they're just ghost busting people that are just out busting ghosts. And people were like, okay, great, let's do that movie. That sounds good.
Sounds good.
Right? Absolutely sounds great. I'm loving these comments coming through. So Josh says his favorite line in this movie is, Ray, if somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Of course.
It's a good one. That's a good one. Do you have
That
a
is a
favorite
good one.
line in the movie, Katie?
I have so
You can give
many.
You can give a few. I'm willing to accept like a top 3.
One, well, my son is 5 and he loves to go, I call it the Zool voice.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves to be like, Mom, I love you, and I'll be like, what a lovely singing voice you must have, because I love that. And obviously, if someone asks if you're a god, there's so many.
Yeah.
I can't even, I feel like now I'm on the spot and I'm like, oh my gosh, every line is so good.
Every line is so great. I love it. We have Terrell 317 is hanging out. Terrell is from New York City, so it's fun because this movie is just like really iconically New York as well, which is also really kind of nice. I feel like a lot of like my favorite pop culture media moments, TV and movies was in this kind of like, immediately I'm just like, also Ninja Turtles. Also, it's just like this world where
I love it.
I mean, I grew up in like suburban Canada, so for me it was just kind of like, it's kind of cool that it like to see sort of New York through this lens of like, I don't know, like fantasy. Like it's like, this is like New York
Right.
where it's bigger than life, crazy things happen, everyone's just okay with it.
Yeah, everyone's just cool.
Yeah, people just walk it off, and that's I assume, Terrell, that's what it's like in real life in New York City.
Yeah, right.
Every
How many
day.
ghosts have you seen, Terrell? I need to know.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you are all sharing some great insights here. According to Ivan Reitman, there was a lot of discussion in the writing sessions about the vibe between the 3 leads. Harold Ramis was the brains of the group, Dan Aykroyd
Right.
was the heart, and Bill Murray was the mouth.
No doubt.
That checks out. It was supposed to be originally, which I'm always amazed at kind of how different a movie would have gone. So this was supposed to be a very different crew, right? So,
Very different. Yeah.
Bill Murray joined later. It was supposed to be
Yep.
Belushi that was in that role, but certainly Belushi passed away right before this.
Yeah.
Um,
And Eddie Murphy.
and Eddie Murphy was supposed to be in this, which would have
Mhm.
made that character apparently a bigger role. Kind of disappointing because they could have just still made the character a bigger
I know. I gotta tell you, that's one of my like things about this movie is every time I see some like merchandising or like something about it, it's the 3 leads.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, but Winston Zeddemore
Yeah,
is
there are
important. He says the best
4
line. He's the one who says, if anyone asks if you're a god,
Yeah.
you say yes.
Yeah, it is.
So
You're right. It is kind of disappointing that it was just the original 3.
mhm.
It would have been curious to see like what they would have done if it had been Eddie Murphy. I don't think I would have liked it as much. I'm just gonna go on the record. I like Eddie Murphy a
Yeah.
lot, but I feel like that's a lot of really big characters. And what I really love about Winston is that I think you need some like some foils, right? Like I think you need people who you can bounce jokes off of. I think you need people that are not quite the level of I mean, Bill Murray is already a lot. Like I love Bill Murray, but he's a
He's a
lot.
bit.
He's a bit, right? Like
Yeah.
he is high. He's a high maintenance character. Dan Aykroyd certainly is as well. So you already
For
have
sure.
a lot of people who are big
Well, and I
personalities.
think, he comes in and plays the everyman as well, which is,
Mhm.
kind of nice too. Like to see a character that, he's like, I'm here, I believe in it. I've seen this stuff. It's real.
Absolutely.
Ghostbuster. I want to see what this said.
So Josh says, fun fact, Ghostbusters has 2 Star Trek connections. Michael Ensign, who plays the hotel manager at the beginning of the movie, had several guest appearances on Star Trek in the 90s. Yeah, this definitely had
Oh,
me
cool.
looking up a couple of the like I don't want to call them background characters, but kind of background characters where I was like, oh, I've seen that person before. Where have I seen that person before?
And
Yes.
there's some very curious extras in there
Mm.
too that I did not know Debbie Gibson was an extra,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Ron Jeremy, which I haven't found yet, but
Sometimes that can drive you crazy because
yes.
was it, I think it was, oh shoot, I can't remember which movie it was that we did like right when we first started the show, but there was, oh, it might have been That Thing You Do. Colin Hanks is supposed to be in That Thing You Do, and we couldn't find him like at all in the
Oh,
movie because they cut his scenes. And the same with, I feel like it was Ethan Embry and something else where we were like, hey, where did he go?
who's also in That Thing You Do.
Yeah, not from that, but he was definitely in that one. But there were a few that there were a few moments I'm probably misremembering where the actors get like their scenes cut or something. Oh, it was Tobey
Right.
Maguire. It was Tobey Maguire in that. I think it was still That Thing You Do, where he's like at the end, and Nat and I spent probably an entire day like rewinding the VHS, and we were like, where is he though?
Right. But where?
But where? Because we didn't see him.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, where is he? And this was well before the days of IMDb and being able to easily look it
Well,
up.
and in Ghostbusters 2, and we don't need to go there yet,
No,
but I
go
will
for it.
say that the kid who talks to them at the birthday party and is like, my dad says you guys are whatever, that's Jason Reitman.
Yeah,
That's Ivan's son,
yeah.
who has now didn't
Sort of
he, I think he's
taken over.
done these
Yeah,
last couple
yeah.
ones. Yeah. So that's kind of fun that that's who he is.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the story of this movie because, again, it sort of like drops us into this world where there are Ghostbusters, there are ghosts, and that's just sort of
Where
the
we have
thing.
Ghostbusters
Where we
and
have
there's a need for them.
Ghostbusters, and there's a need for them. And it kind of like it does build a little bit. I love that they sort of like they sort of start off being like, okay, well, we're in trouble financially. We've spent everything to like to
Right.
build up this whole space, and they get like all of the now iconic Ghostbuster things, right? They have like their headquarters, which is this dilapidated building that they have to fix up, and they get their like secretary at the front.
And
At the front.
everybody has 3 mortgages these
Yeah,
days, so it's fine
yeah.
that they have these things.
Exactly. And then they get the iconic car, which apparently was incredibly difficult for them to source, and they stupidly only got one. So
One.
it died like at the end of the movie. So they
Yeah,
have
they said it was like it died when right after that scene when they are crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, but that was like the last scene, so they're like, "Oh gosh, good."
like
And then it was
good.
gone.
And then they're like, oh shoot, now we have Ghostbusters 2 to
Now,
work on.
right.
Yeah. So that iconic car, and they build this entire world, but it takes a little bit before they're taken seriously as Ghostbusters, which feels
Yes.
silly to say. I love the interaction of the secretary, whose name is totally slipping me right now. You'll probably be able to remind
Annie
me.
Potts.
And there we go. Thank you, Annie Potts
Annie Potts. Or Janine
or Janine.
Melnitz.
Yeah. So she is probably, I won't say she's my favorite character, but she's certainly up there for me. Like I
She's
love
pretty
how just like ridiculous she is and no nonsense them. She's like the
I know.
iconic like sidekick admin, whatever you want to call her, but
Absolutely.
she's fantastic, like from start to
Yes.
finish in this. She doesn't even have all that many moments, but every moment is fantastic.
But yeah, her moment, like when she is talking to Egon, when he comes out from under her desk. I love it. And she's like, I enjoy reading this. She's reading a magazine.
Yeah. Those actually,
Some say I'm too intellectual.
those moments are probably, I think, like some of the, so it's interesting because the comedy is so layered throughout this movie that I almost am willing to just take a stand and say that like as funny as Venkman is and as funny as Bill Murray always is to me, like because he's very just dry and sarcastic and ridiculous, the interactions between her and like that whole line where she says like she's asking him if he likes to read and he's like, print is dead. she just like
No.
keeps talking to him, and they have these like, it's like flirtatious but not flirtatious, and everything that they're saying is just funny, but like on a very deadpan level. Like, he is ridiculously funny in those moments, and it almost could go right by you without even noticing.
Yes.
You need to watch it a couple of times to just fully appreciate how funny it is. But I really felt this time I truly felt it. I felt it deeply.
Because you really watched it.
It's true. I really watched it. I thought that they were fantastic. Do you have a favorite scene? I mean, you've probably seen this a bajillion times. In rewatching it, is there something like,
I counted, it was a bajillion.
It was exactly a bajillion times. Was there something in rewatching it this time around that just like really hit you, where you're like, this is it, this is the moment?
I love, I love the scene where Venkman comes to pick up Sigourney Weaver. Where am I
it's
at
okay.
with this?
You're safe space. Yeah, it's all good.
And she's already been, possessed.
Yeah.
And like all of like just the whole interaction between the two of them. And I do not understand how she even got through that, like without just laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
And just the whole ridiculousness. And then I also love when Louis Tully is
Rick Moranis. I
when
adore
he's
him.
running, he gets locked out of his apartment 3 times during the movie. And I saw somewhere, and I don't know if this is true because I tried to refine this fact, but that he provided his own clothing.
I saw that he provided his own
Yes,
wardrobe.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes me love it even more.
Yeah.
But like him running through Central Park, and him, like when he has the thing on his head and they're asking him questions like if he wants coffee, and he's like, yes, have some. That might be my favorite line. That might be my favorite line. It's so not even like a big thing, and it makes me laugh every single time.
Every single actor in this, every single character is just fantastic in their own right. Yeah, you're reminding me how much A, I adore Rick Moranis, and B, I love him in this role. Like, as the sort of like trying too hard, super keener neighbor.
I know.
He just, even like
do you need some mineral
his
water?
his party is everything. where he's just like trying so hard, and he has a decent amount of friends who show up to it, so it's not even like he's like, well, they're wildly all unpopular.
So he can write it off.
That's true.
They're
That's
not
true.
friends. It's like his line at the end when he's like, who does your taxes? Like right when they like dig him out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just perfect.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be John Candy.
It was supposed to be John Candy, which I again would have made it a really, really different role. And apparently
different character. Yeah.
The reason why not John Candy was that they just were concerned that like what Candy wanted to do with the role would have just been so different from what they expected. So and this is like earlier, like not that Rick Moranis wasn't sort of in he was certainly a well-known actor, but not quite to the level that he would become. And so it's nice to, I don't know, it's nice to have him in this. But yeah, I really feel like, again, like shout out to Sigourney Weaver, because she was definitely the odd woman out in this. So like she had just come off of doing Alien. She was like a big deal like actress, and here she is with all these like comedians, SNL cast members, Second City cast members.
Well, she said she wanted to do it because she had come off of Alien and had felt like she really needed a more comedic role and something like that. And I think that's cool. I love it. She pulled it off. She's great.
Yeah, she pulled it off. Can we talk for a moment? I don't know if I fully appreciated this the last like however many times I've seen this movie, but I felt this deeply today, where so Venkman meets her. She comes in, as a client. She's got this wonderful ghost situation where she has ghosts in her icebox, and then she's got this experience, right? And Venkman immediately is like, typical Bill Murray in the 80s and 90s, like slightly
Of course.
sleazy, but still kind of ridiculous. And so you can't help but like him. But he like
Yes.
immediately hits on her, right? And you're kind of like, okay, whatever,
Of
I
course.
roll. And then he like invites himself over later at night to like to her apartment to like help with the ghosts, quote unquote. And so, but then things get really bad, right? She like gets fully like possessed by the ghost, which is what you were just talking about, where she's like, completely ridiculous and whatever else. And again, like the comedic timing of this movie, given how ad-libbed it was, I love that. Like, so they come in to save the day, right? And at this point, the Ghostbusters are like renowned in New York City. Like they drive this like parade through to save the day. And
Right.
everyone is just like, let's save Venkman's girlfriend. And I'm like, she never said she was his girlfriend. Like, she's like, she has never been on like an actual date with this man. Like and it was just like, nope, she's just known as Venkman's girlfriend. Like at the end of it, I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Well, they were supposed to go on a date.
They were supposed to go on a date, I guess. So
That's what
They were
showed up
on
to
their
pick
way to
her
go on a
up,
date.
and he was more of a gentleman than his character might have let on he would be.
That's true. That is true. He doesn't take advantage of her, but could. Certainly.
That's right. Because he could.
Oh, I love this fact that Paul is sharing with us. As part of Sigourney Weaver's audition for her part, she got up on a couch and
Yes.
auditioned as a dog.
Yep.
I wish I will have to do some deep Googling to see if I can find a video clip of that, because that would be epic.
That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty great.
Well, we should talk.
Since we don't really see her as a dog.
Yeah, we don't actually see
No.
her as a dog.
I mean, we see her, but we don't.
We see her at the very end, like break out of the dog
Yes.
statue. So she's dog-esque, but yeah, she doesn't get to be a dog.
She's dog-esque. Yes.
I did love the other moment with her is where they're all up on the roof. All four Ghostbusters are up on the roof, and and she's standing in front of them, and she's wearing this like ridiculous, like almost see-through body suit sparkly thing, and they're not sure if she's like a woman or a man, and it doesn't even matter. And the comments in that are just fantastic. It was just like,
Yes.
they're like, what? Oh, that's fine, sure.
Gozer the Gozerian.
Yeah, goes with the Gozerian. I love it. I'm just reading through some of these comments. Nostalgic Pod Blast is hanging out with us. Oh no, not a true fan. All right, well, you got to tell us now. If not Ghostbusters is your favorite movie, then what is your favorite?
Yeah,
movie?
what are we saying then?
Paul is saying that
It's okay.
Doc's late to the show, so he has to clean up all the marshmallows. Yep, absolutely. I should have had my big bag of Stay Puft marshmallows. That
I
was really
know.
completed.
It's like, wait a second.
Jeremy,
I've got Stay Puft behind me.
yeah, we need to talk about that in just a second. Jeremy saying his favorite scene is when Dan Aykroyd's character couldn't resist summoning the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and everyone was like, "What did you do?"
Yes. Well, they all know it's him too. They're like,
Yeah.
What did you do?
I mean,
Like,
of all the things to do, it was definitely the best moment.
it's better than a giant floor.
It is. Like,
Which
of the bad
is-
guys. Yeah, it's a likable bad guy. He's a likable bad
Yeah.
guy.
He's much likable. I love when they're shooting him and his little eyebrows go down. He's like, oh.
Yeah, he is
And it just makes me laugh.
fantastic. Well, I need to embarrass you, and because you sent these to me, so now everyone gets
I
to see them. So this is one of Katie's wedding photos, which
Yeah.
is just everything to me. How did you?
And I want you to know we had to. So, like, when we were interviewing photographers, I was asking them, like, will you take a photo and put Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and chasing us? And they were like, there were people who were like, no, I will not do that.
Those people suck.
And I was like, wow, you like no fun at all. And so, our photographer, obviously, I could not wait for this photo. And so we have it hanging in our house, and it's behind me right now. And it's like
love it.
huge. And people
love
don't,
it.
I'm from Minneapolis, and people are like, what is that? Is that Pillsbury Doughboy? And I'm like, get out of here.
It's your it's the thing that you have in your home to test whether or not people can be friends with you. Like if they walk in
Yeah.
and they're like Pillsbury Doughboy, you're like, no, we're not longer friends.
Yeah.
You have to leave.
Exactly.
Well, Val is impressed. Val says, the marshmallow Yeah. It is
Well, thank you.
it is a fantastic one. And then I also have to embarrass you with, all right, so I'm going to put this one. So you are all in on the Stay Puft outfit here, which
This was a Christmas gift from one of my best friends, and she's like, "Oh, Katie, I got you the perfect gift."
she really did. She nailed it. She nailed this one.
So, yeah,
Oh, I love it.
I was gonna wear it tonight, but then I had put it on, and I had sent you a photo, and I was like, I should wear this, and then I put it somewhere I don't know where
Oh
I put it. I have to
no.
locate it again.
Oh
Well, I put it in a safe
no.
spot.
Yeah, hopefully you
So,
can find it. That's an awesome
I
one. Well,
will.
you have your
I mean,
Ghostbusters
it's in the
t-shirt,
house.
so you're still you're on
Well,
theme.
and I was between this, and then I have my Bill Murray St. Paul Saints t-shirt, which
Oh,
they
that's
always
a
do a
good one.
Ghostbusters night because he's a partial owner of
He
our like
is.
baseball, B team or whatever here in the cities in Minneapolis or St. Paul, if you will.
Oh,
So they'll have Ghostbusters night, and so like I have pictures of me with like Vigo, the Carpathian, and there was like a whole bunch of Ecto ones there, but like they're made out of different cars. You've probably seen many,
oh
right?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty fun. So
That is so fun. All right, well, you beat me then because the closest we have is I live about 40 minutes or so from Salem, Massachusetts, and when
oh,
like
nice.
Halloween season hits, the Ghostbusters come out. Like that's like one of
That's
that's
pretty great.
that's one of the Halloween things that happens in Salem is there's at least
Well,
one, if not more, full sets of Ghostbusters in full costumes with the car. Like there's usually two,
they're
but at
taking it
least
very
one.
serious.
They're taking it very seriously. They're like,
Yes.
obviously we need to be here. Ghostbusters need to be part of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. And then Ernie Hudson lives in Minnesota too.
Oh my gosh, I
He,
didn't
he
even
has
realize
homes
that.
here
Oh,
because his wife is from here. So that's another fun fact. I am also I am at my other job. I have a patient that lives 2 doors down from him. And I'm always like,
oh.
how's Ernie? How's neighbor Ernie doing?
You need to just like casually just like go and stroll around in your Stay
I
Puft outfit.
know. I would say I've not ever
Not right now.
stalked
It's freezing
him or
out. Not right now.
anything.
Yeah.
I have never driven by. I've never.
Oh, you've been so good. I would totally be the bad one. I'd be like waiting.
Well, I'm
Casually
always like,
out.
look, I know what road it is, and I'm always looking. I'm like, what if he's like pulling out right now?
You never know. You never know.
You just never know.
You just
Someday.
never know. All right. I'm trying to think if there's any scenes we missed before we dive into kind of other Ghostbusters movies and your thoughts there. So
Oh
certainly,
boy.
I mean, I love. Let's talk for a moment about the environmentalist, the EPA guy. How fantastic is that moment where like I just love the absurdity of this movie, but it's done with such a deadpan, like this is just normal. Like he comes in and he's like,
Yes.
well, you are breaking all kinds of rules, so we're gonna need to
Yes.
like shut this down. And the Ghostbusters are like, if you do, it will be very bad. And he's like,
Maybe we should
no.
check this out first. Maybe we should, do a little research
Yeah,
before
no.
we just like turn it off.
Yeah.
And the Con Ed man is there. I like that too. It's like,
Yeah.
isn't he the telephone guy?
I know, and the power that these two men have is kind of phenomenal. Like in real life, if the EPA showed up, we'd be like, "All right, yeah, that's fine." I feel like they don't have like as much power in real life as they do in the movie, but
Right.
But yeah,
And
it
the
was
scene with the
amazing.
mirror too, I think
Yeah.
is well, that's cats and dogs living together. I mean, another great line, mass hysteria and like so wonderful. And then he brings in the bishop or and he's like, get those Ghostbusters on it.
Thank goodness we have the Ghostbusters, who we like.
Yes.
I mean, I will say like it's funny because in like the newer movies, the Ghostbusters are kind of like an eye roll vigilante-ish kind of group, whereas these Ghostbusters, everyone is just like, yep, there are Ghostbusters here,
Yeah.
and we may need their help, and that's fine. Like they're
And that's fine. Well,
the
in
only
the
complaint
second
is
one,
the
it gets a
cost.
little
True.
rocky, but
The second one, it gets wonky. That's true. We're building. We're building. In the first one,
we're building.
they're sort of either ignored or just kind of like, yeah, they're here and we can. Other than the EPA,
Well, and they, I mean, almost become celebrity, right? Like Casey Kasem's talking about them because the first one, right? Or is
Yeah,
it
the first
second
one we
Oh my
have.
gosh, someone's gonna.
Yeah,
I can't
no,
believe that.
you're good. The first one has, you're right, has Casey Kasem, and it also has. Oh shoot! Now we're the Katies are gonna have all of the moments in forgetting names. Who's the famous interviewer they have right before Casey
Oh
Kasem?
yeah. Um.
Paul, save us in
Yeah,
the chat. You will identify. But yeah,
yes.
there was definitely a moment of
I was like,
nostalgia
I don't
where
think his name is Paul.
no, his name's not Paul, but Paul will save us.
No, but you're right. And just for those who were not born last century, Casey Kasem was a very he did the weekly countdown every
Yeah,
week on the radio,
I
and
feel like
everybody knew
most
his voice.
I feel like most people who are here for this show are our age or older.
I probably,
But
yeah.
for
People
anyone
who are
that's
watching.
younger, there was this thing called the radio, and this was like
Yeah.
podcasting.
You couldn't even see a person.
Larry King, Paul to the rescue. Larry King,
Oh my
CNN
gosh,
Larry
Larry
King's
King.
and his
Yes.
film debut. I could not get
Oh.
over how young he looked. Like, and
Oh,
I again, it's been so long since I've seen it that I was just like, oh, whoa, it's Larry King.
yes.
And then Casey Kasem, I mean, his voice was just so iconic. It's
It's so iconic.
it's like how, like smells will take you back to a moment. Like hearing his voice, I was just like immediately back
Absolutely.
in
I
that
can't believe
moment.
how many times I'd be in my car listening to that. And so yeah, it definitely takes you back. And then you throw on the 1984 Ghostbusters and it just makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely
So
makes sense. Well, as usual, our listeners and viewers are way more cool than us. Cherie said that she met Bill Murray on a flight when she moved to LA in 1992. You're way cooler than I will ever be.
way cooler.
Way cooler.
I will say, like, he does go to some Saints games, and I had a friend one time, and she's like, "Katie, get to the Saints game now. Bill Murray's here."
Go,
And we were
go.
like leaving for Ireland the next day, and I'm like, "I can't."
Oh, I feel like it'll happen for you at some point.
I don't
He's
know.
apparently when I worked in publishing, one of my friends was working on trying to do a book called Nobody Will Ever Believe You because apparently Bill Murray says that to people. So like he'll come up and do like crazy things like to people, like he'll like walk into a restaurant and just like sit down at a table with people and just like start eating their food, and then like as they talk to him, he'll be like, no one will ever believe you, like if you tell this story, like no one will believe that you're telling the truth. And I just thought
The
that
thing
would
is that I would.
yeah. So but wouldn't that be a great book? I feel like that would be an awesome book if that
So awesome. That'd be so great. I'd love
if
to write
would
that book and
happen.
interview those people.
And Nostalgic Podblast is saying that they spoke with Larry King in 1988. Oh my gosh, you're all so cool. He loved your
my
name,
gosh.
Chance. Chance is a pretty cool name, so I feel like
That
that
is a cool name.
I feel
Yeah.
like that makes sense. Well, I'm gonna ask everyone
Wow,
in
that's awesome.
the chat, and then also we'll ask Katie at the same time. So obviously OG Ghostbusters, maybe also Ghostbusters 2. What are your thoughts and feelings on like the newer quote unquote Ghostbusters movies? And safe space. You can be as honest as you'd like. No one judging you here.
All right. All right. Well, the lady cast
The lady cast, yeah.
was the lady cast. I thought was very funny. Like, we kind of talked about Kate McKinnon before because she just stole it. I thought she was
so funny.
she was so funny. But I did not like that it wasn't like in the same Ghostbusters universe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a little the ghosts were a little poppy for me. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Like they were just too colorful. I don't know. I just didn't care
Not
for
enough
that.
dark dogs and
Yeah,
Keymasters.
yeah. I want more
Yeah.
terror dogs and like fewer clowns. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I agree actually that that's a really good point I hadn't thought about. Yeah, I loved Kate McKinnon so much that I feel like that my love for her just kind of like has skewed my memory
Yes.
of that movie. But you're right. Now that you say that, they were
and
a
Chris
little bit much.
Hemsworth, I thought was also hysterical
Yeah,
in it
he is
with like the hot
funny.
dog.
Yeah.
Just he got me. Like
Yeah.
that was a fun role for
Yeah.
him.
Absolutely.
So I mean, he had so many great comedians to play off of with Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig and all that. But yeah, it was not my favorite. I'm not going to say I don't watch it a bunch. I do.
Uh,
But the newer ones, I feel like they are a love letter to people who love the original
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And so I know, yes, there's things that maybe you don't love or whatever, but I always think it's so cool when we're still telling the stories, when we're still, going back to these things that were so much fun when, we were young or 40 years ago or whatever it is. And we're still telling those same stories. And I like that. And I think, the first newest one, right? So
Yeah.
there's Frozen Empire. And then what was the first one?
Oh gosh, all I can think of is
Paul.
Frozen Empire. Yeah, Paul will help us. Paul will save us as he's live fact checking us.
um, but the whole story with Egon. I mean,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
yeah,
Oh boy, if you didn't like shed a few tears there at the end, I I
yeah.
loved it. I loved it.
It's it's been interesting because so the most I guess I traditionally have always been the person that's like, okay, let's just come up with new ideas, right? Like stop
Okay.
just reliving, these moments and like stop touching my favorite childhood things. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I get that too,
But I
though. I
will
do. I
say
get that.
the exception to this, and I have made time and space for um Twisters. So I watched Twisters and I actually
Okay.
really enjoyed Twisters. Same
Yeah.
kind of vibe where it was like it paid homage to the original without needing to be like a sequel, and it wasn't a remake. And I felt the same way, slightly different because it was a traditional sequel, but the new Beetlejuice movie, I really
Okay.
thoroughly enjoyed that one. And again,
Mhm.
it felt like it similar to what you just said, like I'm really enjoying that now it feels as though, and not everyone, there are some that are just horrible and I still violently dislike, but I feel like there have been a lot more where it's continuing the story. It's doing it like with a high level of respect for the fans and for the franchise. And I agree with you. I think that the newest Ghostbusters do a really nice job with that. Like they really
Yeah.
like they're really, as you said, a total love letter to the fans, to
Yes.
the original team, to everyone, which would not be easy because they're like, there's like it has been a long time, and and there are
Yes.
cast members that and team members that are no longer with us, so it
Of course.
would not be great. Josh saved us, so it's Afterlife and Frozen Empire.
Afterlife. Thank you. Yes. Well, in Afterlife, I feel like they did such a great job of
Yeah,
kind of closing where the Ghostbusters ended up,
yeah,
where the originals did.
yeah,
And then in Frozen Empire, I wouldn't say it's the greatest storyline, maybe,
yeah,
but there were so many callbacks.
yeah.
And that made like we went to the movie theater to see it, and I was sitting between, one of my closest friends um and my husband, and I kept like both of them just like hitting them. And they're both not as huge of fans as
They're like, okay, take it down.
my best friend specifically. She's like, oh my gosh, but she went to support me.
Yeah,
And but I was like, oh my gosh, this is, whatever it was. And it made me so excited to hear even like a small like music or something,
yeah,
something small that was like, I'm like, oh, that was a callback to this,
yeah.
and I was very proud of myself of how many of them I caught.
It does become a bit of a game. Like again, it's amazing how much you miss, and maybe this is just me, but when you're in a movie and you're watching it, even like if you've seen it a few times, there are things that you miss and there are things that you pick up the more that you watch it. So there's something
Of
kind of
course.
magical about having a movie that you love and watching it like a ton of times, because there is always something that you'll pick up from it. If it's a good movie, there's something you're going to pick
Yeah.
up from it each and every single time. And it's been the fun part of this show, and it's just been the fun part of rewatching a lot of these movies is you're like,
Well, and
oh,
I think so too. And I think like every time I watch Ghostbusters, you were talking about like who's your favorite character or
mhm.
whatever. I mean, I feel like it changes because it depends on where I'm at in life, even sometimes.
Yeah.
I know that sounds so silly,
No, not at
but
all.
sometimes I feel that way about so many things. Like, I always say that to my husband about Firefly. I don't know if you've seen
Oh
Firefly,
yeah,
but every time we
huge
watch
fan of Firefly.
Firefly,
Yeah.
I'm like, Jane's my favorite or whatever. And I feel the same way about
Uh,
like these movies that I love that I will watch over and over.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is I think it's been nice at like it um I feel like I solidly live in the past these days, which maybe is bad in some ways, but it has been really nice to kind of relive these moments and dive deeper. And just even like researching some of the facts for these movies has just been like very
Yes.
fascinating. And when we were originally watching them, because we're old, there was no easy way to access any of that information. It wasn't like you could sit there and with your phone and like and Google search or IMDb all of these different interesting facts about things. And it's been fun. Like Paul just shared that like I've learned a ton about Dan Aykroyd in the last year, but
oh my gosh, yeah,
so
and his history with his
fascinating.
family.
Yeah,
I mean, like his great grandfather or great grandfather,
yeah,
was like a paranormal
yeah,
something,
yeah. He's
and
got
that's
like
really cool.
a huge kind of like spiritualist and paranormal investigators, and he's
Yes,
got this like this.
he's pretty legit.
He's pretty legit. He's got this entire background in it, which is
Yes.
really fascinating. Terrell is saying that he actually has an investigative show on the History Channel. Okay, I will have to look that up. I have not seen that. That's awesome.
That's got it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
What was Bill Murray? What was Venkman's show on Ghostbusters 2? It was
shoot.
Paul's gonna help me out here.
Yeah,
The world.
I haven't seen that one recently, so I don't think I'd be able to.
I know. I did actually watch it a couple weeks ago, but
You're prepped.
no. But he brings people on, that are talking about the end of the world, and he goes, the guy is like, "You're my second favorite show, right after Bassmasters."
I feel like Bill Murray should do a podcast as Venkman. It would be absolutely incredible. Like this is the time.
He could do a podcast as like every like Caddyshack or Stripes or anything.
Every
like,
week
and
he
it'd
should just
be
pick a different
so
character.
hysterical. Yeah, it'd be pretty
It's like
crazy.
Bill Murray is not Bill Murray podcast. I would totally listen / watch that. That would be fantastic. I love it. Kathy's saying, yeah, that's what makes VHS so great. Yeah, it really like there's something about I don't know. There's something about this time. Like in some ways I feel lucky that we're like living in a time where we just have so much incredible content available to us, like whether it's, YouTube or podcasts or any of the streaming services. There's just like so many shows and so much amazing content. But on the other hand, like there was something about like everyone watching these movies. It was like this was the movie that everyone was watching and they were all watching it, and the ability to kind of have these conversations and everyone was on the same playing field versus now it's like I open up like my 12 streaming service options. I'm just like, I don't know, what do I like what do I
that's
watch?
So true.
Yeah,
I've never I never thought about it like that, and it's so true. We were all kind of watching the same things, and so we could all talk about it. And now I'll say, oh, have you seen this show? And most people, oh, I haven't even heard of it.
yeah,
like that's not even a thing. Like
yeah,
everyone watched TGIF on
TGIF,
Fridays, and everybody.
Exactly. All right, we're getting updates. So the name of Dan's show is Unbelievable. All right, I'm gonna write that one down. I'm gonna have to check that one out. And Venkman's show is
Sounds
The
good.
World of the Psychic.
I was going to say it's World of something or World of Psychics or World of something like that. So, yeah.
And I love it. Yeah, Terrell is also a podcaster. I love it. Well, you're in a great, I keep saying safe space, but like a fun space, a community space filled with podcasters and video people. So that's amazing. All right. Well, we're nearing the end. An hour passes by so quickly. So final
oh my gosh,
thoughts about Ghostbusters? What else should we chat about?
Oh my gosh, final thoughts. Boy, we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we talked a little bit. So someone had mentioned earlier in the chat, which I wanted to cover a little bit. Oh, Chance was saying that Rick Moranis is out. He won't mess around with the new Ghostbusters. So Rick Moranis has been out of acting in
for a
general,
long time.
For a long time. He lost
like
his
late
wife.
90s.
Yeah. And so he actually quit acting to be a stay-at-home dad, which is like the most admirable, like incredible
awesome
thing. It breaks my heart on 10 different levels, but
of course
I'm hoping at some point he might
he's done some voice acting, but he doesn't like appear in things, so I would love to see him again, because I mean, again, like we grew up on so much stuff with Rick Moranis. I mean, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was like
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
We've actually like inadvertently covered, or I mean, I guess in some ways, vertently covered a number of Rick Moranis movies. So we did Little Shop of Horrors, which is one of my all-time
Oh,
favorites. It's
so
in my
good.
top 10. It's in my magical top
Okay.
10. And then what did we do? A couple of weeks back, we did a couple of Nat's favorite movies, and he was in one of those. Bugsy Malone. I think he was in
Oh,
Bugsy
okay.
Malone. I
I
might be
don't know.
I might be
Yeah.
misremembering the two that we did back to back, but he was in one of those, and it was awesome to see him. I don't think, like you were saying, I feel like the iconic Rick Moranis movies for me were Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Little Shop of
Little
Horrors,
Shop. Yeah.
and then I grew up in Canada, so I remember him like being a total hoser and
Oh,
being
totally. Yeah.
being
Like,
his
what was the show? Was
character.
it like Cold?
The Great White North, the Great White
Yes.
North, which was like an SNL style skit that
Yes.
then actually turned into a movie called Strange Brew. So if you
I
want
remember Strange Brew.
a weird,
Yes.
wonderful movie, that is a
Yes.
great one. Yeah. So he holds a special place in my heart. So pour one out for Rick Moranis.
Well,
He's awesome.
I get it. Yes.
Josh is saying he came back as Dark Helmet for a cameo on the Goldbergs, which I have not seen the Goldbergs yet, so maybe I'll have to add that one
What?
to my
I'll
to
have to
watch
check
list.
that out. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that's my other movie that I remember because my dad also had a drive-in movie theater in the 80s, and I remember seeing Spaceballs there.
Spaceballs. I'll have to add that one to
And
the list.
Spaceballs is another pretty special one to me.
Yeah. Take off you hoser. We've talked about this like a lot over the last few episodes, but worth saying one more time. I did not realize before we started doing this show how much I actually really thoroughly enjoy comedies, slapstick comedies, like sort of all the different levels of comedy. And while Ghostbusters is not a slapstick movie, it's certainly like it kind of has that sarcastic sort of silliness to it, or
Witty. Yeah.
deadpan to it. Like
Yeah.
thinking of Spaceballs, it's because of the world that we're living in right now, and I like in many ways I am a big believer in the importance of inclusion and of calling out terrible behavior, certainly. But I feel like we've lost a lot in the comedy scene, or it's certainly gotten really different. So it is sad in some ways to have lost it. Or I feel like we could figure out a good way to bring the slapstick comedy back in a way that isn't as offensive, but still kind of ridiculous. I don't know. I miss those
Right.
movies, and most of them I
Yes.
can't watch
Some of them
anymore.
they didn't age very
They
well.
didn't age well.
Spaceballs isn't too bad.
Okay, good. I haven't seen
But-
that one in a while, but I'm like, oh, is that going to be one of those
We've
ones?
watched it a couple times, and I'm trying to
enjoy.
remember if there's anything that I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not good. But yeah, that can happen. That can
Yeah.
happen when we're talking about some of these older movies.
Yeah. Ghostbusters, I mean, held up. I will say, like,
know.
even
I agree.
rewatching it now,
can't-
like, it's weird, but there's nothing in it that is, and I guess like Venkman to some level is like a little tiny bit slimy, but even then he's not, as you said, like he turns
He's kind
around.
of, I know.
He like
Yeah.
Bill Murray, that was like his shtick for a lot of those movies in that time period, was that he was
Right.
kind of the like slightly misogynistic, somewhat jackass throughout things, but-
Definitely. Yes.
but
Yeah.
he's also so kind of endearing in it that I don't know. I shouldn't say that I give him a pass, but a little bit of a pass in these
Yeah.
in these movies. But yeah,
I get it. I totally agree with you because he can be such a slime ball, and you're like, is he assaulting or are we?
Yeah, you're like,
Where's our line here?
yeah.
But then, like I said, he's a gentleman when he could take advantage and he
Yeah,
doesn't. So okay, so I'm like, okay, all right. He just says things that maybe are inappropriate.
he definitely he comes through in this one. I think it's okay. I think this one is okay for a few. If you've not yet seen Ghostbusters, you probably are
Yes.
in the wrong place. But it I feel
Why
like
are you
it,
here? No.
I feel like it holds up. I'm loving a favorite Bill Murray movie is What About Bob? I think my favorite one is Groundhog
so good.
Day. My favorite Bill Murray movie.
That's a great.
which
Oh
we
my
just
gosh!
covered last
I
week or
watched
2
you.
weeks
Yeah, I
ago.
know.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I was like,
Yeah, that
I
one's a
have to
great
go back and
one.
watch it. It's
It's
been
so
too
good.
long.
It's so good. It's
So
still
good.
very good. It's also on that line of like he's kind of a jerk, but it's okay. It figures itself out. All right. Well,
When we were
we're
kids, we used to watch them a lot on. We'd watch the original Saturday Night Live crew,
oh
and we'd take it from my dad's theater. He had like the VHS of, so him and Gilda Radner
oh
they were always so good.
yeah.
And he did
She was
this skit
special.
where
Yeah.
she was so wonderful,
Yeah.
but he did this skit where he sings Star Wars, and it's if you guys, sorry, I know I'm way off, but like if you guys
No.
haven't seen that, like he's like at a ski lodge. And Star
I've
Wars, like, it was like the first orchestral like song to like get on the Billboard or something. I don't know, something like that. And so he sings words to it, and it's so funny.
I like have a very faint memory of it, but I definitely need to go back and rewatch it. Katie and I
Probably.
were chatting right before we jumped on with all of you that if you have not yet watched, so SNL is celebrating its 50th anniversary, which is
Mhm.
crazy. And if you have not watched there's a couple of documentaries that have come out of that, one that's specifically on music and then one that's on the show itself. But if you haven't watched those, they are like beautiful homages to
It is.
like
And
the
people
last
that you're
50
just
years.
like, oh,
Yeah.
they were such a part of your life, for,
So good.
they were saying in one of the ones they were saying, it was who, like when you were like 14, 15, like that was your cast.
Yeah.
And so true.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so incredibly true. It's funny. Like there have been a couple of casts for me. Like I think that fact is true, but then like
I would agree with that too.
there's
I
like a
think if you
newer
keep
group
watching
where you're
it,
like, oh,
yeah.
it's so good. Like, I mean,
Yes.
again, like anything with Kate McKinnon, The Lonely Island. I was
Absolutely.
watching the music one and
Oh
they're
my
talking about The
gosh.
Lonely Island. I was like, oh my God, I love everything about this.
Lonely Island,
Lonely Island was
we
fantastic.
we listen to it a lot in the friend group. So it's yeah.
I guess there you go. Speaking of inappropriate comedy, there's like
Yeah.
inappropriate quote unquote comedy at its best. A lot of votes for Stripes. Stripes as being, yeah.
I love Stripes.
Apparently
is
Bill
so
Murray
good.
brought a lot of like that
And
kind
Harold
of,
Ramis.
yeah, again, like
Yeah.
a lot of those were the same group of folks, and I
Yeah.
think Bill Murray brought a lot of the kind of that vibe into these roles. So
Yeah.
oh, I love it. The first
Yeah.
VHS that you ever bought and still have it in the box. I love it. I sadly only
Wow.
have Ghostbusters on DVD. I have like a box set of them with like sparkly green on the outside. It's a fun set. But
Same.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My parents probably still have the VHS. And
Oh,
then
don't let
I
them get rid of
called
it.
them to see if they had any of them, like, because my mom has
Oh,
a tendency to keep stuff. And
yeah.
back in the 80s, when movies came out, my dad would get all this merch
Yeah.
and like free
posters and
stuff
swag
and
yeah.
posters and yes. And we had like a Ghostbusters phone and
Oh, so cool.
like a whole bunch of different stuff. And so I called, I was like, do you happen to have anything? And my mom's like, I think we just have some buttons, and I was like, okay. And like the phone was in pretty bad shape after so many years of us playing with it and everything. But they did that for like all the movies. They just sent so much stuff. It was
That
awesome.
is incredible. Take me back. Oh, I loved watching Ghostbusters every Christmas. I love a movie tradition like that. We started, so we do cover your ears, Kathy. We do Die Hard now on Christmas Eve, which has become like our new family tradition.
We do Die Hard on Christmas too.
Yeah. So there's like,
Yeah.
I think stuff like that is great. I should add a couple ones, and I'm now
We do
doing Groundhog
Ghostbusters
Day,
on Halloween.
Oh, that's
But
a
we
good
don't
one.
we
Yeah.
I don't know, and Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, and obviously Hocus Pocus. Obviously Hocus Pocus. Well, it should come as no surprise, but if any of you want to drop in your ghost rating or potato rating or star rating or marshmallow rating, I don't know if there's a marshmallow emoji.
I don't know.
Feel free
There's
to
a
drop
ghost
in your
emoji.
marshmallow. There's definitely a ghost emoji, so feel free
Yeah.
to drop any of those in here. I'm just gonna swing on over because it should come as no surprise that we're at 5. We're at 5. 5 full
Yes.
potatoes. This like
Yes.
this defined a generation. Like I in addition to having the box set of the DVDs, I also have like the entire cartoon The Real Ghostbusters
Oh wow.
on
That's
DVD as well.
impressive.
I like it.
Wow.
Even the TV show, it kind of
Yeah.
defined my.
And we didn't talk about Ecto Cooler or any.
We didn't talk about Ecto
You know,
Cooler. We
or
should actually
the
say
Slimer.
I did not know before today. Maybe you knew this, Katie. I didn't know that Slimer's character was based on Belushi, which
John
I thought was
Belushi.
so fun and like what a great
Yeah.
way to pay it because he is such a lovable character and I had forgotten like how little he's in. I mean, really in
I
the movies
know.
in general, but definitely in
He's
this one.
iconic, but he's like not. Yeah,
Yeah.
they put him a little too much into the lady Ghostbusters. That was
Yeah.
another thing I didn't love, and like his, it was weird. But yes,
Oh,
but yeah, he's based on John Belushi, which I think is
I
there's so many things that you're just like that is so cool. Like I love that.
so great.
But Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi were they were so close. They were best friends.
Yeah.
And so we just also watched the Blues Brothers
Oh, I
because
need to
we
rewatch
were
that
kind
one.
of talking about that. Yeah. Which is
Yeah,
a
one leads to
ridiculous
another.
movie.
It is a ridiculous movie. That is the
Really.
problem with watching old movies. The second that you put
Yes.
on one, you're like, oh, well, now I need to watch these 9 other movies.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we've got an A+ rating. We've got a ghost coming in from Video Like a Dad. We have I think it's 5.
Is that one ghost?
I know, only one ghost. Daryl, come on. Where are the rest of your ghosts? did the Ghostbusters steal all the rest of your ghosts?
Wow.
from
They busted
Paul.
him because busting makes them feel good.
We busted makes them feel good. Yeah.
I have the record of the soundtrack, the original soundtrack. The record.
Did you recently get that, or is that like an OG item?
It is. I recently got it, but
Yeah.
it's the OG.
Yeah. Did you get it from
And
Mondo?
many songs are not in the movie.
Yeah, that's the fun with soundtracks. You're always just like, wait a second, I don't remember that.
This wasn't in there.
Yeah, there's a company, maybe this is where you got it. There's a company called Mondo, and they've been making like the most beautiful like movie soundtrack records, and I have been just buying
Oh no.
all like
Thank you for that. That's
sorry,
not gonna go
it's
well.
dangerous. Yeah, the actual
Yes.
like records themselves and I will say it's not like the original like artwork on the record, like they update it, but they also have like different versions of the actual vinyl. So it's like some of them are like multicolored, or they like do cool
I
things when they
love
spin,
it.
and it's so much fun. So I got Home Alone. I've got like
Nice.
3 or 4 of them. I was like, yep, all in.
Yes.
I'll in for this one. Oh, we swayed Daryl. He's up to 5. We
Okay.
bullied him into it. We're sorry, Daryl.
Yes.
Josh has 5 as well. Oh, I love it. Everyone has 5. It's a classic.
Woohoo! There's a
I
reason you're
love
here.
that this one endured. I really do. I think
This one earned. Yeah, they've
it
earned
earned
5.
it. I like
It did.
it's wild and crazy enough. Dan Aykroyd was reined in enough, and it's the group.
It
that
could have
did
been really
this.
weird.
It could have been.
I mean, it was, but
Yeah. It could have been terrible.
It's. I just think almost everybody knows at least one line
Yeah.
from Ghostbusters, and I mean, everyone has made the comment like, "Don't cross the streams," and
Don't cross the streams, which they apparently didn't. They like literally made that up like in the last
yes,
minute.
they
were
made
like,
it.
well,
I know.
it's so ridiculous that we can just say whatever. So let's just say
Yeah.
that we can't cross the streams or bad things
Well,
will
they said
happen.
they've been doing that like the whole movie anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just making it all up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's none of it is real. Yeah, I love that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think that's probably my favorite thing about this movie is that it's ridiculous and it's okay.
Right. When Bill Murray is checking her refrigerator, Dana's refrigerator, she goes, "Are you even using that thing? Do you even know how to use that thing?" And he goes, I think so.
Oh, I love it.
So good.
love
Sorry, I
it.
keep going. See, I keep going back.
No, it's fantastic. I'm going through all these amazing comments. So on the set, Dan Aykroyd referred to the Slimer ghost as the ghost of John Belushi. Slimer's gluttonous eating was based on Belushi's cafeteria scene. Animal House, that's another great
Animal
line
House,
from Animal
yeah.
House, 1978.
Gosh. Oh.
Jeremy's got 5. Everyone has 5. Even Val's seen it. Paul's coming in with ambulances. So 5 ambulances. That's good. We can pretend.
Nice.
We
Nice.
can pretend that they're ghost busting ambulances. And Daryl says he wasn't paying attention to the rating system. Come on, you can't just put one ghost in. Can't be here with one ghost. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much,
love it.
Katie, for hanging out.
Oh my
and
gosh.
for sharing
Thank you
your
so much for letting me.
Yeah, no, there's nothing more fun than just hearing people's favorite movies and their stories. I'm so jealous. We may need to have you back just to talk about your experiences growing up in like surrounded by movies and movie stores and drive-in theaters. That sounds so incredibly cool.
There, it's good memories. I'm not gonna lie, and I
Yeah.
love movies. Like I love movies so much. And like now my son's getting old enough to like start watching movies. Like
Love it.
he has, more of like an attention span where he'll do it. And
Yeah.
it makes me so happy. I just want to watch movies with him all the time. But there's
Well,
that whole screen time thing we have to,
yeah.
watch out for.
Also, screen time just needs to be movies and not iPad. So
Right.
you can
Exactly.
make it work. I think my son was about that age when we watched Star Wars with him, and he up until that age had owned Darth Vader everything, and he was very distraught to find out that Darth Vader was the bad guy. He was
The
like,
back.
wait a minute. I'm like,
You
no
did
one
not
had
explain this
told him-
properly.
Yeah, no one had told him that Darth Vader was the bad guy, and he was very upset.
I love that.
Yeah, it.
Wyatt was Darth Vader for Halloween. So, but
Oh,
he
there
knows
you
he's a
go.
bad guy.
Oh, so okay, so you won't break his
So-
heart the way that I broke my son's heart.
Yeah.
He's like, "What's happening, Mom? What's happening?" Yeah, he was not. He was not into it. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out. We are almost wrapped with our we've shifted to Wednesdays for the month of February,
Okay.
but I think we should be back to regular Thursdays going forward. So thanks to everyone for jumping over onto our email list so you can keep up with us and keep track of everything. And if you want to get onto our email list so you know when the episodes happen, because we've been bad, you can swing over to the vhsclubpod.com, and you can on that site you can leave us a voicemail, you can sign up for our emails. We send only one a week to let you know when our next episode is, and you can listen to past episodes, you can check out some fun show notes and everything else, and I think that's it. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything.
I think we
that's
covered it.
We covered it. We did it. Two Katies
did
for the
it.
price of one.
Hey, yeah.
Thanks for being my
You're all
co-pilot
lucky.
today. Yep. Everyone's lucky to be able to hang out with all of us.
Yes.
Well, we will see you on the next one. And thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Getting naps, walking the scene.